In today's video, I'm going to share with you how I got my deck ready for summer on a budget by using thrifted items, by shopping my house, and by doing some simple DIYs. You won't believe the transformation. But first, let me show you what I'm working with. So this is me coming out of the kitchen to the deck. Now keep in mind, this deck is over 22 years old. We had it built when we first moved into the house. And the reason we had such a large deck built was because we really don't have a backyard. The land in the back of our house is just a slope. It slopes towards the woods. And we had two young children at the time, so in order to compensate for the fact that we didn't have a backyard, we built this enormous deck. The deck is composite, both the floorboards and the railing, and it's definitely seen better days. The floorboards are really showing signs of wear. There's a lot of discoloration. There are some stains, and we do try to power wash it periodically, but it's gotten to the point where the power washer doesn't really make much difference. Now, over the winter, we accumulate a lot of junk on our deck, and I always tell myself I'm not going to let that happen this time, but it always happens. So, because half of the deck is covered and I have a lot of terracotta pots, during the cold months I do try to push everything under the covered side of the deck just to protect those terracotta pots from cracking in the extreme cold temperatures. So I have a lot of cleaning to do, a lot of decluttering. We do have a very large sectional. This is a all-weather wicker sectional that we bought from Amazon about 11 years ago. It was an investment. It was a little bit expensive. I don't remember exactly how much, maybe $2,000. But we've had it for 11 years and it's very well made. It has a metal frame and it did come with these covers. So in the winter, I just throw the covers on, and those covers do a pretty good job of keeping everything protected from the worst of the weather. Here I'm showing you a little bit of our view. Because we are on a slope, it gives the feeling that we're really high up above the tree line almost. So we do have a really nice view, a green space. In the backyard, we see some of the backyards of our neighbors. So it's a really private area. You can see a little bit of our non-existent backyard and the way it slopes towards the woods. So let me go ahead and get started because finally the weather is warming up. It was a very cold and rainy spring, so I didn't feel that sense of urgency to get the space ready. But now that we're finally getting some warm days, I'm ready to get this project crossed off my to-do list. So my first goal is just to move everything away from the covered side of the deck just so I can get to the sectional and start cleaning and decluttering. If you're wondering why I have a chandelier hanging there on that stepladder, it is a project that I'm working on, and that was eventually moved downstairs to the basement. Now, one way that I save money, and I do advise you to do this, is to buy all of your flower pots secondhand. All of these I bought secondhand from either Facebook Marketplace or from yard sales. Occasionally I'll find them at thrift stores, but most of the ones at thrift stores are plastic, and I try to stay away from plastic. I was able to buy the majority of these, and even the big ones, from Facebook Marketplace for $5 each. And the only drawback is that because most of them are terracotta, you do have to protect them in the winter, so I just move them to the covered side of the deck. I leave the bottom cushion on during the winter. I just put the cover on top. But it is a little dusty. There are some stains from last summer, so I'm going to just throw them in the washer. And while that's going on, I just give everything a quick sweep. It's amazing how the leaves just get everywhere. While the cushions were drying, I turned my attention to the flower pots. I had gone to Lowe's earlier, I believe it was Lowe's, and I bought a selection of plants. I've played around with different color palettes over the years, and I've decided that I like the cool color palette the best. So I focused my purchases on pinks, purples, blues, whites, and then I always like to have that shot of lime green. So this is what I bought. I spent about $115. What you see here is $115 worth of plants. I know it seems like a lot for such a small quantity of plants. So I'm going to start pulling out all of the dead plants from last summer and start arranging my flower pots. I really love the old-fashioned flowers like the carnations, the geraniums, the petunias. Those just have such an appeal and such a charm to me. I think because my grandmother used to grow those in her garden, so I always love to have them in my own outdoor spaces in the summer, and I usually tend to gravitate towards those plants. I try to choose plants that have a variety of blossom type and leaf size just to add some interest to the flower pots. This purple plant that I picked is called a lavender angelonia, and the blue one is called a blue lobelia. And I just thought they looked so pretty together, and especially when I add in the pink and white petunias, and the white flowers are vinca. And to add that beautiful shot of lime green, I picked this sweet potato vine. It took me several hours, but I finally finished all of the planting. I had enough plants for 7 of the planters, so here they are. I think they turned out really pretty. I try to do a combination of small blossoms, medium blossoms, and then the larger blossoms. And then of course, I always like to include a vine. So the sitting area is coming together nicely, and now it's time to get out the cushions. Now these storage boxes are so practical. I know that they're not the most attractive things to have on your deck, but it's the perfect spot for me to store the cushions for the sectional during the winter. Before I had this box, I used to have to take it downstairs to the basement and then bring them back up, and I had to make several trips. So this storage box has made things so much easier for me. Since I know I'm going to be spending the bulk of my budget on plants, I try to save money wherever I can. And one of the ways that I did this for my deck is I made these pillow covers. I bought half a yard of fabric last summer at the end of the season from Joann Fabrics. This is the outdoor fabric, and it was already on sale then, and I bought half a yard. I deliberately wanted them to be mismatched because the sectional is so drab in color that I wanted to infuse some pattern and some color. So I made these pillow covers, and also to save money, I did not use a zipper. For the bottom hem, I just did a quick slip stitch, and you can see there, if you use a matching thread, you can barely tell that it was hand sewn. But this way, if I need to wash them, I can just quickly remove that slip stitch, throw the covers in the washer, and put them back on. So these pillows cost me about $3 each. I already had the pillow forms. I just gathered all of the unused pillows in my house, and I used them for this project. Now I'm turning my attention to this side of the deck. I have this little wall space here, and I have this little table. I want to put our fountain on that table. I like to have a water feature. The sound of water is very relaxing, and I thought that would be an out-of-the-way place to keep the fountain. The fountain was outside all winter, so I'm not even sure if it works. And I decided to repurpose this lattice panel that I was not using in my garden downstairs. just to add some height and some visual interest behind that little table. This little table I bought from Facebook Marketplace for $20, and it has a granite top and it's metal, so it's very sturdy. It won't blow over in the wind and it can stay outside all year long. And now for the moment of truth. Let's see if this thing still works. And it does. I wanted to add some color to that black lattice panel, and I walked into Goodwill the other day and I saw these metal and wood butterflies for $2.99 each. I thought they would be perfect for that panel. So I gave them a good cleaning with a damp cloth, and then I used my trusty hot glue gun and I added a little dab of glue on the underside of each butterfly, and that's how I attached them to the lattice panel. I really like the way that that turned out, but I'm not very happy about this plant. This plant was inside all winter, and I moved it outside a few weeks ago, but it's not looking very good. Of course, that might have something to do with the fact that my husband accidentally poured some soapy water on the pot, thinking he was doing a good job watering it, not realizing that there was soap in that water. So I'm going to switch it out, and for that I always use my dolly because I have hurt my back so many times. These pots are heavy, especially when they're filled with dirt. So if you're going to be moving heavy pots, I definitely suggest you use a dolly. And I switched out that sad looking plant for this ficus that has been inside the house. Hopefully it will stay looking just as lush and beautiful as it is now. Yes, this looks much better and it didn't cost me anything. I ended up having to go back to the garden center to grab a few more plants. Two of them I wanted to use on top of the server that I have. I like to add a little bit of color there. Our house has siding, which is not very exciting, so I just wanted to add a little bit of interest to distract from that. I don't know if you noticed, but I have this ugly electrical box right above that storage box, and I was thinking of a way to cover that up. So I thought that if I bought a fern, something bushy and large, I could put it in a pot, put it in front of that box, and from the right angle, you wouldn't be able to see it. So that was my plan anyway. And my last planting project was this sweet little ivy that I bought to go inside a birdcage that I was going to use on top of that server. Another very fast and simple sewing project was this runner that I made for that storage box. I like to use that storage box as a surface for serving appetizers, drinks, fruit. So when I have friends and family over, it's the perfect place to place those items because it's close to the sitting area, it's within easy reach of the guests, And by putting this table runner on it, it also covers up that ugly brown color. And then it was time to see if my fern camouflage idea was going to work. And there you see that box that I'm trying to cover up. So I started out by repurposing this basket and I put the fern in. But the basket was smaller than I thought, so the pots stuck out of the basket too much and I didn't like that. So I switched that basket out for another one that I had in my guest room. And I like that much better. I'm also repurposing some decor from inside the house to use on this coffee table. You'll see that I keep my surfaces very simple. I only have a few items in there. And this is because in the summer I have family over very frequently, and nothing frustrates me more than before company arrives, having to clear these surfaces and find places to keep these items inside the house. So, to make things easier for myself, I just keep the bare minimum on these surfaces. That way I can still use them for company without having to remove anything. I bought these curtain panels from a yard sale last fall. There were 2 packs of them. Each pack had 2 panels, and they were $5 each pack. So $10 for the curtains, and they make such a difference on the deck. Especially for us, the way our house is facing, we get afternoon sun on this side. And if we don't have those curtains and we're sitting on the sectional, the sun is in our face. This metal plant stand is another purchase from Facebook Marketplace for $10. There is quite a bit of rust on it, which I haven't addressed yet, but I will be taking care of that. We're supposed to have rain for the next 5 days, so I'm just trying to get everything where I want it, and then I will go back and address any areas of concern after the rain. I decide that this metal plant stand is the perfect place for my petunia pots. And this is the area that I have been dreading. This is my husband's grill, and it's something that he retrofitted. He has a lot of little implements, some rusted, some I don't even know what he uses them for, but he assures me that he needs every single one of them. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cover that ugliness um, since he doesn't want to part with anything. I have this piece of vinyl that I bought for an upholstery project that I never got around to. So I thought that this would be a good material to make some sort of curtain to go in front of the grill. At one time, there were doors there, but because this grill has been here for so many years, the doors eventually rusted and my husband got rid of them. So I'm not really sure how this project is going to turn out. I do want to cover both sections. They are slightly different size, so I start out by measuring and writing down the measurements so I can cut my vinyl to the correct size. I use paper clips to mark my seam allowance, and then I decide to use my hot glue gun. Once again, the hot glue gun comes to the rescue, and I use the hot glue gun to glue everything together. One thing I did realize is I had to use the hot glue very sparingly because obviously this is plastic, and when I put too much hot glue in one spot, it would kind of melt the vinyl. Of course, this is not going to be used while my husband is grilling. This is just going to be used when the grill is not in use. And just to cover up all of the unsightly paraphernalia that he has over there. And to hang up the curtain, I'm using these little magnets, which again I applied with hot glue. These are tiny, but they are so strong. And because the vinyl is fairly lightweight, I thought that this was the perfect way to install the curtain since the grill is metal, magnets should have no problem sticking to that. So I finished the first curtain and I tried it on and it actually worked. It looked much better with that side covered, so I proceeded to work on the second panel. And here's the finished deck. I'm so pleased with the way it turned out. I didn't do too much layering, I didn't add too many items. Again, I was going for a comfortable but simple look. This is an outdoor area, so it does get dusty. The pollen sits on the furniture. Even though it's still summer, soon enough the leaves are going to start falling from the trees and they're going to get everywhere. So to make my life as easy as possible, I keep things as simple as I can to make it easier to maintain and to keep clean. But I think I added just enough to make this a very comfortable space. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so you can be notified of future videos that I post.